This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome to 2023, new year and a new Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. If your 2023 resolution is to start your own business, we have tips you'll need right here every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock on Wish TV and streaming on wishtv.com. We have more information elsewhere, including much of our content available on demand anytime at BEOshow.com, a site that keeps growing with more information and resources. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter that we update every Tuesday and subscribe to the Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. Take us with you on the go. As always, we break our show into 7 topics entrepreneurs face every day. So let's get down to business with what's coming up on today's Business Equity and Opportunities. The U.S. Small Business Association has tips for getting started in the new year. In Access to Capital, are you making a podcast part of your marketing plan? This week in business, the president of TechPoint talks venture support. Shea returns to help you build a budget in accounting and bookkeeping. We'll examine the use of co-working spaces in running your business day to day. In our industry focus, we check in with an Indiana native icon about his role in the history of radio and the future of communication and the stories in his new book. And in our success story, we meet the recipient of this year's Rosa Parks Trailblazer Award, another champion of diversity. First up, a new year sometimes comes with new opportunities, maybe launching your own business. So we turn to a true expert for top tips about getting started in 2023.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
Laura Schafsnitz is a public affairs specialist with the U.S. Small Business Administration. She explains what small business owners and startups need to know as we start this new year.
2023 is year. That means it's a new year. Why not make it a new business? SBA is here to help. If you just simply go to sba.gov, on the left-hand side, you'll see a business resource guide. It's going to give you those top 10 things that you need to be doing to start your business. We have learning platforms that are online. We have tutorials. We have the information. It's online. But you don't have to be tech savvy. We have our resource partners. This is one avenue that you can take. You can find a resource partner near you here in the state of Indiana. We have our small business development centers, we have our SCORE chapters, we have our women's business centers. We have, I believe it's 10 or 11 small business development centers throughout the entire state, 8 SCORE chapters located throughout the state. We have a women's business center right here in Indianapolis. We have one in Fort Wayne. And what's really cool about all of them is their counselors. They're willing to put their boots on and come see you where you're most comfortable. Part of our mission and part of our purpose is our doors are open, but we're not waiting for you to come to us. We want to find you where you are. We want you to be comfortable. So we're expanding our resources and becoming more equitable, more diverse, and really reaching out into the community to find the folks that are ready to get started. Maybe they're scared to ask for help. I was at an event a few days ago, and one of the speakers said something that really rang clear with me. Number one, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. And one of the best things you can do is ask for help. Because more than likely, if you come to us and say, I'm struggling with this, or I don't know what to do here, or I have this specific issue, more than likely, and 100% of the time, we're gonna say, I know somebody who can help you with that. Maybe I don't know them right now, but we sure as heck are gonna go find them for you. Because our mission is to help small businesses succeed. A small business can be anything from a solo entrepreneur, mom and pop shop, an online venture, up to a small business that maybe they employ 200, 300, 400, 500 people. It really depends on the industry that you are in. And we can help you determine whether your small business really is small. We have, actually it's called the SBA Size Standards Tool, It's really easy to use. We have it online. You put in some of your numbers, you put in your NAICS code, which is your industry code. What do you do for your business? And that's going to help you determine, are you a small business? Are you a large business? 99% of the businesses here in Indiana are considered small. So just keep that in mind. But if you're questioning, reach out to us and we can always help you determine the size of your business. We don't just help people get started. We're here for the life of your business. If you're looking to grow and expand, we have resources to help you. What we find with small business owners, especially those that are at the 5 to 10 year mark, maybe they've gotten into some bad habits. We can help you determine, number one, what are your needs? How do I go about finding folks to do these things for me? How do I hire? What are some best practices? What should I be looking for? As well as, oh, by the way, we might, maybe not the federal government, but some of those state and local agencies, they might have some marketing programs or some programs out there to help you get started and find somebody to do that for you, and it's not going to cost you a dime, or it's going to be a minimal cost. So absolutely take advantage of those things. SBA, we're here for the life of your business. So come see us, call us on the phone, send us an email, and we'll put you in contact with who you need to help you start, expand, grow, build your small business. Happy 2023.
Getting Started, made possible by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation.
If you want more advice about getting started straight from the experts, visit our website. It's beoshow.com. If you want us to follow up on a great story, or if you'd like to be part of the show, send us an email, beo@wishtv.com. We'd certainly love to hear from you. Coming up next, our Access to Capital segment as you shape a marketing plan, why it may pay to podcast. Business Equity and Opportunities will be back after some of our sponsors do a little marketing of their own. Stay with us. You're watching Business Equity and Opportunities. Time for Access to Capital. If you have a new business, you'll need to get the word out about it. There are many media avenues to choose: television, print, radio, and increasingly podcasts can be part of your marketing plan. They may even add to your revenue stream.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Access to Capital.
Jeff Townsend is Podcast Sales Director for the All Indiana Podcast Network. He knows the value that a podcast can bring to a small business.
I'm Jeff Townsend. I'm doing quite a bit of things, to be honest. I have a media company, LLC, that I do on my own, Jeff Townsend Media. Work with about 10 different podcasts in some form. Some I host, some I content, creation, advice. Also consulting on the side. But here at Wish TV, actually, All Indiana Podcast Network, been brought on as Director of Podcast Sales. So trying to help grow and really get a different mindset as far as the news industry, as far as podcast goes, because in this area, we're the only ones to actually have a podcast network. So trying to grow that, make that, more of a profitable thing for Wish TV. Podcasts can really get small businesses in a good place, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, you need to really go back to when I first started podcasting. It was a really big unknown thing, right? Then you've seen a couple big booms throughout the years for podcasting where the industry has really grown. A significant one, we'll just jump to it, was when they started putting the app on the phone, right? So you get your phone out now, you've got Apple, whatever. That was absolutely, 2014, that was absolutely critical and huge for the industry. So when that followed, you really started to see businesses get on board as advertising and making sure they were advertising on podcasts or using podcasts to grow their business. So as that's happened, it's continued to grow, and the pandemic saw quite a bit of growth in the podcast industry. And I think it's been a lot of proof that small businesses, large businesses can all utilize it. It's a little bit different of a model with a small business, but the principles are the same. The marketing agencies are using it at a high rate. We know that over 100 million Americans listen to a podcast. It is a very well-known thing at this point in time. And I think for small businesses, it's really about getting your brand identified and out there. And I think that's where it's really good, because what we see with podcasts, it's at a much higher rate of the audience, listeners are on social media, much higher rate than television or radio, which I think is critical, because we are an informational age today. And as we can use social media and podcasting together, as long as other marketing channels, small businesses can really benefit and grow from that. There is potential for extra revenue source for small businesses and podcasting. There's a couple of different ways you can look at it. One of them, for an example, would be to increase your business, your sales with what you're doing. You get to really know your audience on a more personal level, and those relationships that you make, whether it be if you're trying to kind of develop a leader in the company or something, or you have a lot of different platforms and things to do there. So just by getting to know your customers, listeners more, that is a big thing, because we find that the engagement rate with people that are listening to podcasts is very high. So just by getting that feedback and that interaction, that could organically grow your business per se. But then on a more direct level, you could get more you could sell ads and different things like that. It just has to be really niche. And I'll give you an example. I have a pal overseas that he has a podcast about the sanitation industry, the porta potties, and how to set them up. You think, oh, well, who would want to listen to that podcast, right? Well, he gets about 150 listeners a week, but those listeners are all listening because they want to know the ins and outs of how to set up the porta potties, we'll say. And it's really profitable because they're selling things that are really expensive as well. So if you're strategic and you're trying to find different ways to sell the things that you're trying to sell, there's a lot of opportunity with that. Podcasting is directly tied to this phenomenon of social influencers that we see everywhere. I think that it's because podcasting has such a broad term of what it is now. Used to, the old guard would say it's just audio. Okay, by definition, yeah. But there's video podcasting now and all that. I'm certainly not one to put a limit on, hey, this is what a podcast is. So I think as we've seen this as social influencers using video podcasting in particular, and it's almost like they're repurposing it for audio so you can listen to it. But I think the video thing is absolutely big, because podcasts are on the go. These influencers are talking to who they want to talk to, who their audience will think is interested in talking to. You're either going to listen to it for a reason. There's some reason. You want to get more information, you want to learn more, or you want to be entertained. And I think social influencers is a great platform to do that on, because it's on your own time and your own resources, and you can do it your own way, which is limited with like a radio or a television. It's their own platform. You basically own it. Now you can get into this area where YouTube could own something or whatever, but as long as you're channeling it back to your website, for example, you own your content and you do it on your own time and your own way. So that's really big. If you're a small business looking to start, I think the best way to really do it is you have to really come up with a plan on why you're doing it. What do I want to get out of this? And that's really going to determine what you're going to do from there, because if you want to just grow your customer base, your listeners per se, that is really challenging. That takes a lot of time to do that. But if you're wanting to become more of a part of your existing customers' lives, then you can go with that focus. So we're really determining what you want to do, and one will take probably a lot longer than the other. But it's gonna always be important to be willing to have feedback, because feedback from your listeners and your customers are how you're gonna grow. So I think coming up with a business plan on why we're doing it, and where we want to get to, and just have it be really simple, because what I find working with a lot of new podcasters are, you want to make sure that this fits into your workflow, and it's not something that's going to cause you a bunch of extra work. There's a term for when we stop podcasting, it's called pod fade. It's where we get burnt out. We maybe underestimated the amount of work and all that. So be realistic, realize it is going to be work. It is extra content, but it needs to be good content. So really coming up with a solid plan, and then 1 month goal, 3 month goal, 6 month, 9 month, a year. Just being really realistic and thinking, what can I get out of it? But more importantly, you have to think, what are my customers going to get out of it? What are my listeners going to get out of it? And have that mindset when you're developing this business plan. There's some great examples out there. I think one of them is what we're doing here with the All Indiana Podcast Network. You'll see how we're repurposing our content here. the news, the weather, all those different things into our platform for podcasting. That is a convenient way because you can't always catch TV, right? So we've realized things like that here at Wish TV. That's a good example. There's a lot of other really good examples out there. There's a podcast hosting company called Captivate FM. If you want to start a podcast, that is a great way to go. They actually have instructional videos. My friends run it, and they have how to do this, how to do that 101 stuff, and you'll get a lot out of it, and you'll learn a lot about how to be a podcaster and not necessarily the do's and don'ts because it's different for everybody, but the important things to realize. So I think they're a really good example as well.
If you want more business equity and opportunities, check out our podcast. We're also on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Subscribe through the link on our website, beoshow.com. While you're there, sign up for the Business Equity and Opportunities newsletter to stay up to date on the latest resources to help your small business. Coming up, we learn about a new venture focusing on small business technology startups when Business Equity and Opportunities continues. Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. It is time for This Week in Business, and we're finding out about a new venture support dream team launching to drive digital innovation throughout Indiana.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. This Week in Business.
TechPoint has announced a collaboration with some of its Central Indiana corporate partners to connect Hoosier entrepreneurs with a team of experts who can help them activate their new startups. Ting Gootee, the president and CEO of TechPoint, explains.
TechPoint is a sector development initiative under the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership. We're dedicated to accelerate the growth of our digital innovation economy. We do that through two primary strategies and focus areas across various sectors because digital innovation is really becoming enabler piece for a lot of different industries around us. The pandemic only accelerated a lot of the digital technology use across different sectors. So we primarily focus on tech talent and digital innovation as our two pillar strategies. As part of our digital innovation strategy, we were able to work with various sector initiatives and folks who are involved within supporting entrepreneur ecosystem under the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership to be part of a group of professionals, 12 of us to begin with. All these are very experienced industry executives, operational professionals, and investment professionals. I dare to say we assembled probably one of the most experienced, most high-profile team in our region. We call it the Dream Team, hopefully for a good reason. Most of us in our line of work has been doing various work in terms of supporting founders and operators and help their startup grow. So we decided collectively this is opportunities for us to package our program up in a more structured way, put it out there to be more public facing, and we call it Indiana Venture Support. And the primary goal is really to provide more access for founders and operators who are either operating from Indiana or interested in making Indiana one of their growth venues to work with us and hopefully access one of the most well-curated and experienced industry expertise, potential customer base, talent, as well as investor network. Before I took the opportunity to lead the TechPoint initiative here, and obviously I've been a fan of many of the stuff that the organization has been doing for years. I've been such a big fan, really been thrilled to watch how the organization really lead the way in terms of being the industry voice and putting up various support programs. But in my prior life, I also had the pleasure to lead one of the state-sponsored investment programs here in the state of Indiana. It's really have a very ground level view in terms of what founders and operators are dealing with from a particularly venture capital and venture support perspective. The big takeaways, as some of you may have noted, the entire venture market since the financial crisis has really the last 10 plus years has been experienced incredible growth historically. Taking Indiana as an example, on the heels of financial crisis, our venture investments in our market and our state on an annual basis roughly around about $200 or $300 million a year total. fast forward today, last year we just had our big market, biggest year so far, that's well over $1 billion. And historically, 75% of those investments has been in tech. Really just give you a sense where our state, from a tech investment standpoint, has really grown tremendously five times over. And our goal right now is to help entrepreneurs and founders build quality companies and continue to attract that type of investments that will support their global expansion. Capital is oftentimes not the biggest problem. It's access to the expertise, to the other resources, to the hiring. As we heard about, talent problems is a shared pain point across companies and sectors, and big and small. So I think that's what makes our venture support so a little bit unique and different, and good complementary to other various entrepreneur support system organizations, what they're doing out there. Because through the Central Indiana corporate partnerships and different sector initiatives that have been developed over the last 10 to 20 years, really this is an organization that has built the best corporate network, an investor network and talent network in the state of Indiana, in my humble opinion. And I think our collective hope is through this venture support program, we can now open up the potential access to this corporate network for the entrepreneurs and founders in our state. I think in the end game is one, we are able to, beyond the 12 professionals we have today, once we get some of the program mechanics worked out better, we're able to layering folks, either C-suites at Cummins at Lilly and or success founders that don't necessarily have dedicated time to work with entrepreneurs or founders, but this gives them mechanisms to do so without asking for too much. This is a more curated process, but with clear expectations set. But also, at the end of the day, the success of this program relies how the founders and entrepreneurs that gone through the program, how they're succeeding. So we're going to be tracking more outcome numbers in terms of connectivity to customers and talent and capital sources, and see how those pan out.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, Accounting and Bookkeeping.
It is time to talk accounting and bookkeeping on Business, Equity, and Opportunities. And a familiar face to us here, both at the Wish TV and Circle City Broadcasting, is Shea, our CFO. The F is financial. He's a wizard in all of the money works that we have to deal with around here. Thanks again for being with us as we wind down 2022 into 2023. Budgeting is one of the issues you really want people to keep top of mind as they launch into this new year.
Yes, budgeting is critical at this time of year. And really, a lot of companies have probably already begun this process several months prior to now, but it bears mentioning, given that you're about to roll into that new year, several factors to consider when you put together your corporate budget is, looking at benchmarks from last year. So what will be similar to last year? What's going to change from 2022 to 2023, whether it's maybe you're going to grab a new customer, or maybe you're losing a big customer. Other things to consider are certainly environmental factors or industry factors that you may have no control over. For instance, I guarantee you everybody's budget in March of 2020 went haywire when COVID hit, right? And those are things you can't anticipate, but you got to roll with the punches. And then when you go to make your 2021 budget, obviously 2020 was a one-off, and so you have to consider all of those factors when you put together a budget.
Now that you say that, I'm thinking maybe March is the month where these things happen. Fuel costs skyrocketed last year about that time as well. I should say the early part of this year. How do you build is wiggle room the right word? How do you decide, okay, listen, I can't know exactly, and I don't want to be caught short on something. How do I decide just how wide to make the guardrails on things?
Yeah, and that really comes down to each individual business operator. But, I think it does help to have a certain amount of conservatism built in, right? Because there are always going to be unforeseen changes or curveballs that come up during a year. And I think it helps to be have that flexibility built in to withstand that. And let's face it, you also have to consider your end users, who's using your budget. How does your business owner, if you are the business owner, how do you, view that? How does your bank, if you submit a budget to a bank, what are their expectations and managing their expectations? So, if they're the kind of partner that understands if you might have a bit of a shortfall, then maybe you can be, try and hit that number and zero in on it a little tighter. If they don't like seeing a budget shortfall, maybe you build in and be conservative and make it a hurdle that you can get over.
And finally, I want to drill down on something you mentioned very early in this conversation, the customer. Customer is a big part of this as well, because as we learned during the pandemic and then the years that have since followed, what you hope they want isn't necessarily what it turns out that they need. You really think they need to be top of mind as you approach a year and decide how you hope to deal with them and for them.
100%. So especially if you're building a budget from the bottom up, right? So you're building it with anticipating sales from all of your individual customers, and you build that up and you come to your top end number. You better have a pretty good idea and a pretty good relationship with all of those customers, and a good idea, and have had those conversations already with them. Hey, you bought X number, X amount this year. What did your marketing budget look like, or your purchase budget, or whatever it is, look like for the coming year, and making sure your budget aligns with their needs for the coming year. And really, building a budget is a great opportunity to have that another conversation with your customers, especially at the end of the year, when to just become top of mind with them again. So it's actually a great opportunity more than a burden when you consider it.
Look at that, even the finance guy, always thinking about sales. Hi, Shea, we always appreciate your time.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
No, never. See you soon.
Thanks, Scott.
If you'd like more accounting and bookkeeping tips from Ty or other experts in the field, please visit our website. It's beoshow.com. After the break, if your business is dealing with growing pains, you need more room, co-working spaces are offering an option, support from like-minded businesses. We visit with one with a unique focus when we're back in 95 seconds. This is Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. As your business grows, you may need more working space, but that can be expensive. As you run your business day to day, be aware of a new breed of co-working spaces popping up for small business groups.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities, running your business day to day.
Epicenter Indy is billed as the first holistic co-working space in Indianapolis and an example of how like-minded companies can benefit from shared use spaces. Meg McKelvey, the CEO and founder, took time out from a winter solstice event to reflect on the new year in this segment of Running Your Business Day to Day.
I own Epicenter Indy, the holistic co-working space. We operate for holistic practitioners such as massage therapists, acupuncturists. We hold meditation, sound baths. And what I love about this space here is that we have 4 private treatment rooms. They're all rotatable. We have a recording space, and then we have our main event space. So this main space here is where we hold our events. We host community acupuncture here as well. And then we also open up to our seating desks. So we have floor desks that we sit on the meditation cushions, like you'll see in this corner. And we branch out into a nice little oval or moon shape, and we all just kind of jam out on our computers. And then this room is everyone's favorite side, the Zen the Zen Den. And we have one of the rooms here. All of them come stacked with a massage table, because usually that's some piece of equipment that's kind of necessary with the holistic practitioners. This one we opened up just for tonight. We took the table out. So we're actually gonna have our sound bath gal here popped up on the cushion so people can come in through our solstice event, sit down and just see and experience what a mini sound bath would be like. Okay, so as you can tell, this is one of our bigger rooms. We just had a session here, so you're seeing a little live in action. We set it up for one-on-one sessions, but then we also set it up too for mini group sessions. So we can do a small sound bath up here. We've had one of our healers do a breath class up here. And then tonight we're gonna break it down so that there'll be a tarot reader over here. There's a henna gal that's gonna pop over in this side. And then we also have a girl selling natural made jewelry too. I've been a practitioner for the last 10 years, and I've found that it's really hard as an entrepreneur starting your own business to not be surrounded by like-minded individuals. So Indy was a beautiful opportunity for me to cultivate this experience, and we just kind of bring everybody together. It's wonderful because we can help entrepreneurs start their business on the back end, because a lot of holistic practitioners are not educated when it comes to their finances, when it comes to setting up their website, how to maintain a client relationship, and we really embody that relationship here and help them start their business as well. I changed the concept of co-working. When it comes to like your other larger co-working spaces, you have private rooms that they can rent out for phone calls and booths. So I took Epicenter and dedicated each room to be a rotating one-on-one treatment room. So for our practitioners, we'll just use a massage therapist as an example, they might have 2 clients for the entire month, and then we have another one that might see 40. So we dedicate the rooms based on how many hours a month the practitioner needs. So it's this very synchronistic relationship of today's the day that I'm gonna see this client, and we book out that room because it fits our need. And it has worked very beautifully here. It's almost like this synchronized swimming dance of intertwined relationships between practitioners. What I found was really lovely is that at our space, we kind of pocket off one another and paying. So the clients that may see me will also see Colleen or see Tim. So we're just engaging and sharing clientele, we're sharing ideas, mindset. So the benefit is you get to cultivate your own little network within the network here. So everyone thinks I'm crazy because I moved here from California. However, I think I moved here because of how much I love the small business support. I've never felt so confident in stepping into my power as a woman business owner, or even a young small business owner like I have in Indy. I have used the resources here, I've used the chamber, and each time I've made a connection, it's been easy. So for me, I love being a small business owner here because I feel like Indianapolis is like, hey, let's do this and we got your back. I get inquiries all the time of young entrepreneurs that are wanting to start their business. They want to walk away from, a corporation or a big company. So it fuels my fire because like that crystal ball is already beaming bright. It's like, there are small businesses, we're gonna get to 90%. So I love it.
For more thoughts on running your business day to day, visit our website. It is BE&O.com. Up next, Emmis Communications head Jeff Smulyan writes, never ride a roller coaster upside down. He shares why when business equity and opportunities returns. So keep it here. Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. It is time for our industry focus. You've likely heard of our next guest, Jeff Smulyan. He's been at the center of broadcasting across Indiana and the country for years. His Indianapolis-based radio stations have called Monument Circle home for many years. Smulyan's now written a book about his experiences in media and life as an entrepreneur. It's called Never Ride a Roller Coaster Upside Down.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Industry Focus.
Jeff Smulyan has never been afraid to take a risk. As a radio station owner, he bet on sports talk radio. He also bet on a funny kid from Broad Ripple named Dave. He also appeared on a Las Vegas game show, won some bets, lost some too. He chronicles his adventures in broadcasting in a new book, Never Ride a Roller Coaster Upside Down, the ups, downs, and reinvention of an entrepreneur.
Well, I kidded that I'm an entrepreneur because I'm not hireable in a free society. But I always wanted to be one. My father was an entrepreneur, my grandfathers were entrepreneurs, and it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to start my own company, and here we are 40-some years later and still doing it. The book is called Never Ride a Roller Coaster Upside Down, because I've said life is a roller coaster. When I was young, I thought life was just a straight line up and success to success to success. And what you learn in any enterprise, and also in the rest of your life, is that it is a roller coaster. And the most important thing is getting through the tough times, smiling, and then not getting too smug when things are good. And I've learned so many lessons. I think that you learn the best lessons in adversity. The most important thing is surround yourself with wonderful people. I always say hire smarter people than yourself. I've been fortunate, there's a lot of those people, but it's been fun. I drove my daughter, who's now a freshman in college, to school every day from kindergarten until she fired me when she got her driver's license. And we would just talk about life, the lessons I learned and the stories. And one day she said, "Dad, nobody would ever believe these stories. You got to write them down." So when COVID came about, I just started writing, and the next thing I knew, I had 300 pages. Sent it off to a couple friends, and they said, "You know, you really got a book here." So the next thing I knew, I got a wonderful editor. She helped me. She'd say, "Cut this, it's extraneous, it doesn't move the story along, amplify this." Then we got an agent, we got a publisher, and here we are. There's a lot of stories. I've had a number of friends who've said, I laughed out loud. We've done so many crazy things. The media business itself is crazy. And then we were in Major League Baseball. We started the first all-sports station. We were nationalized in Hungary. Not many people have ever been nationalized. So we've just had a lot of fun. And I've been fortunate to, when things got bad, we managed to survive. Many people in our industry went bankrupt. We never did. And now we're sort of in a new phase, and we have money in the bank and no debt, and we're very happy. We love the broadcast business. It got very tough. We weren't big enough, we thought, to have an impact, and we saw the larger companies that were big enough had been in and out of bankruptcy a few times. So we said, look, we think that we'd like to be in businesses that grow, so let's transition into some new things. I'll always love the broadcast business as much as anybody, but it's changed. The world's fragmented. When I started out, you had 6 or 7 radio stations in town and 3 TV stations, and now there's 500 TV channels, and there's 12 streaming services, and there's radio, and there's satellite radio, and there's streaming audio at Spotify and Pandora. So there's a lot of choices, and fragmentation makes all these businesses a little tougher. I think the only problem with some of the fragmentation is there's a lot of things that are very hot, like streaming audio, that's never really made a profit. There's 3.5 million podcasts, and about maybe 100 of them make money. So, I always say, know the difference between a business and a hobby, because if you want to feed your family, it's got to be a business, not a hobby. So I think a lot of that will shake out, but consumers always will gravitate to the things that matter to them. People who've seen me play golf know that I could never fully retire, and we're just looking for different things. We have 3 new businesses, and we'll probably look for a couple more. The book's been a lot of fun. I have been very gratified by the response, and hopefully the lessons in the book will make people laugh. And maybe, I always say everybody's an entrepreneur of their own life. So even if you're not interested in being an entrepreneur, hopefully it'll help you deal with your wife or your kids or your family or your coworkers. Then I go back to my daughter, that for years I would say the most important thing is grit. You gotta have grit, never quit, never quit. So she had a paper in 6th grade, and she said, "Dad, I got a paper, it's on the most important quality, and it's gotta be grit." And I said, "Nope, that's second." I said, "The most important quality is integrity. If your word is good, almost nothing else matters, and if your word isn't good, almost nothing else matters." So I would say for an entrepreneur, make sure that the people that you deal with trust you. That's the most important thing.
Jeff Smullyan's book is on sale now. You can get more information about it on BEOshow.com. Up next on Business Equity and Opportunities, we meet another Champion of Diversity honoree, the second of this show, and it's our success story. Next.
Every business is unique, and every business has a target audience. Circulus Digital Media can help you connect and grow your customer base with turnkey digital solutions that are nimble to reach a customer base that spans the globe. Pinpoint a specific audience, down to the smallest details. No matter the size of your business, put Circulus Digital Media to work for you and get results.
Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. In 2020, Indiana launched a new job with a huge responsibility, aiming to make sure that all have equal access to the state's opportunities. In today's success story, the woman who leads the way.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities Success Story.
Kara Herring is a native Hoosier from South Bend. As the state's first ever Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Officer, her team focuses on growing statewide access and opportunities in economic development.
Well, the most important thing is I'm a Hoosier, born and raised in Indiana in South Bend. I'm the daughter of pastors, which is a really important part of my journey. I was raised in a household where service was a really important value for us, where we knew that no matter what aspirations we had, it was always going to align with something that had to do with serving others, because my parents taught my siblings and me that to whom much is given, much is required. And so that's a big piece of it. But I went to Purdue for undergrad, and then I went to Valparaiso for law school. And right after law school, I started working at the University of Notre Dame for about 10 years. And it was while I was at Notre Dame, I got to do some work around equity, inclusion, opportunity from a compliance standpoint. I was overseeing workplace investigations. Our team did a lot with our general counsel's office and provost's office and president's office around workplace culture. And so it was great, but the last 3 years, I was the director of public affairs, and I got to look at Notre Dame's, their economic impact to the region up in South Bend. And so having done something internally, looking at workplace culture, and then looking at economic impact to the region and how populations around Notre Dame were experiencing what we could contribute to that area, it all was preparing me for this phone call that I got in 2020 from a member of Governor Holcomb's cabinet talking about this new initiative they were standing up. And at first I said, I don't think that's for me. I'm not a diversity expert. That's not my space. I'm in public affairs, I'm in compliance. But once they started talking about how this was really designed to look at how we're lifting up all populations in Indiana, they were speaking my language. And I thought, I've been able to serve at Notre Dame and serve our faculty, our staff, and our students. Now I could serve in a greater capacity, looking at how Hoosiers are experiencing quality of life. And that's really what led me to put my name in the hat for this opportunity. And I feel so blessed that after a very competitive process, I was the one chosen to lead the initial leg of this office. I was just looking at the names like Dr. Toby and looking at some of the other folks that I know and love dearly, like Akila Darden and Holly Harrington and Angela Freeman. There's so many names on there, but it's such an honor to be included with those champions, and they're all trailblazers in their own right. And I think it's important that we recognize the people that do this work. You know, championing diversity is not easy. Sometimes you're the one that's been called to ask the difficult questions and really challenge the status quo. And that doesn't come without, when you talk about blazing trails, you're gonna get some burns when you're blazing trails, and there's gonna be some tough moments when you're shattering glass ceilings. There might be a few cuts that come along with that, because you're really breaking through some of the most difficult conversations that we have to have. And so I'm really excited that the Indianapolis Recorder, they really have taken this initiative to honor people doing this work. Because when you're doing the work, sometimes you don't feel like you're making progress. Sometimes you can't see the bigger picture when you're in the trenches. And so to be able to take a moment and pause and just recognize the great individuals doing this so that we can all gather together, it almost is like a recharging for us. And it lets us know we're on the right track. You've got to keep moving forward. So it's fantastic. I'm so grateful. What we're doing right now is we're laying a foundation for what I hope Hoosiers find as beneficial to everyone, right? Of course, we're looking at our most vulnerable Hoosiers, and we're looking at those who have had the worst health outcomes and have struggled with education outcomes and other areas. But when we start to lift up all populations, the state is stronger as a whole. And so I hope people understand that while the inequities that exist might impact, Black families more, or they might impact people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds more, when we help those individuals, all of us are better for it. And so I believe that we're on the right track, and my team is really big on using data so that we take the subjectivity out of it. We don't want people to feel like we're trying to change their beliefs and we're trying to indoctrinate them with something. We just want to look at the facts. We want to look at the science. We want to look at the data and make really informed decisions based on that. And I think we're on the right track. And I think organizations across Indiana are starting to take that approach more deliberately as well. Now we still have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of work to do. So we're on the right track, but we have a lot more work that has to be done. I am in ministry with my parents and my brother up in South Bend, Indiana. Our church is called Faith Alive Ministries. And so when I leave here and I get to go home and I get to do ministry with my family, for me, this is just as important as that aspect of my life because I'm serving Hoosiers. And I have such a heart for the state of Indiana because it's the state that I'm from. And while we have challenges and we have opportunities to do better, when I go out across the state and I do one of our sessions called Next Level Teams, it's around civility and compassionate listening and constructive disagreement so that we can create a more inclusive culture in Indiana. When I go do that, whether I'm in Hammond, Indiana, or maybe down in New Albany or wherever I'm at, to see how people are coming together to look at that inclusion. And I have people come up to me and say, thank you. This is who we are as Hoosiers. You know, we're humble as Hoosiers, so we don't always talk about all the things that we do. But we are a really great community. And even though there are challenges, when I get to do those sessions and people ask me tough questions, it brings me so much joy because it's making my state that I love better.
That is Business Equity and Opportunities for this first week of 2023. For more information on anything you saw on this show or past shows, visit BE&Oshow.com. And be sure to listen to our Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Subscribe while you're there. And sign up for our newsletter. We update it with new information and resources every week. Have questions? Want to be part of the show? Send us an email, beo@wishtv.com. And watch us every Sunday morning, 10 o'clock on Wish TV, or stream us on wishtv.com. I'm Scott Sander. For all of us at Business Equity and Opportunities, we hope your new year is filled with success.
Business Equity and Opportunities is made possible by Indiana Economic Development Corporation.